We respectfully acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the land in which this video was filmed.
Hi, I'm Kristal Kinsela. I'm a proud Jawoyn and Wiradjuri woman, a supply diversity expert and published author. Welcome to Meet the Mob, a YouTube series dedicated to showcasing Blak Excellence in business. Here I get to interview deadly First Nation business owners from around the country and learn about their why. Today I'm joined by Jarin Baigent from Trading Blak and Jarin Street. So to kick it off, tell us sis, who are you? Who's your mum?
I'm Jarin. I'm a very proud Wiradjuri woman. We got that Wiradjuri connection. I was born and raised in Sydney, but my family's from Cowra in Western New South Wales.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit. You got a lot of kids. Big mob, big family.
Big family. Yeah. I'm a mother of three, and I'm a stepmother of three as well. So we've got 6 in our family, and a wonderful partner. Definitely come from a big mob. I'm an Ingram, so big family. Predominantly Redfern community, which is where I spent most of my childhood years, and I've moved back as an adult. So, but spent a lot of time in Western Sydney growing up as well, and I actually moved around a lot growing up. So lived on country, but in Bathurst, Cowra, but most of my time was spent in Sydney.
Yeah. Well, it's great. I mean, I got to meet you for the first time that we can remember in 2017 at the Women in Focus conference up in Noosa. And it was crazy. I remember just watching you speak and going, oh my gosh, she's phenomenal. So, I mean, you come from a very strong family who's been, right from the early days, heavy in activism and really pushing for rights. Yep. Do you think that that's helped formulate your why and why you are who you are and what you do?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's both conscious and subconscious that happened. Yeah. The women in my family are, matriarchs, they're leaders, innovators, creators, but yeah, definitely strong women who have led a lot of things that we know it is activism, but also, asserting self-determined pathways. And I think it's not until I can sit here as a 40-year-old mum and understand how all of that came full circle, because, we all go through those rebellious years, I'm not doing that, I don't want to be, no, and you go and do your own thing. And that's what I mean when I say that subconscious. I think just being around those women my whole life and listening to those conversations around the dinner table, around the card table, the family get-togethers and barbecues, the conversations have always been around leadership, and that definitely has absolutely formed who I am today.
So you've led us into that. I was going to ask you about Jarin Street. So talk to us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so
you've got the Jarin Street label on.
Jarin Street. It's an activewear brand, and I'm a sporty person. I always train. I play a lot of sport, and for me, going through the tail end of my policing career, just very depleted and broken. And I am a creative, and that's another term that I've had to get used to saying about myself again. I'm inherently and fundamentally a creative, and that was gone for such a long time. And so creating these products that I felt were a way that everybody was able to participate, whether you're Aboriginal or not. I wanted people to do their workouts and train hard and do whatever it is that their wellness practice is, but understand that you're still an Aboriginal country wherever you are. And so the brand itself is supposed to be a reminder for all of us that when you're using these garments and you're using these practices, and the mats especially, that you are still on Aboriginal land, no matter where you go. But yeah, for me, it was like a creative piece, and it sparked joy, and I was happy to do it. And then the other space, which I'm sure we'll touch on as well.
We're going to talk about.
But it's still my happy place. Jarin Street is still a happy place for me.
It's been a huge speaking point because I own all of every collection you've had. I own. I've got the towels. I've got the yoga mat, and I remember the first time I walked in with I think what was the first set?
Oh, it was the Millie set.
The Millie set. I've walked in. I've got the black tights on and the top on. I'm on an exercise bike, and a lady comes up to me and she goes, "Where did you get that outfit?" And then I started having this conversation, and it became a really big conversation starter. And then if I was shooting the link around to people, and I think that's part of that kind of flow-on effect. But you think also about health and well-being and how important that is to our everyday life as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And that was part of it as well, that I wanted these pieces to be a talking point. Yep. And you know, why can't we be leaders in this space? And I wanted Mob to wear things that made them proud, but I also wanted non-Aboriginal people to feel comfortable wearing these things and using these products and having those conversations as well. Because, you know, those conversations are not just our responsibility. That's a broader responsibility. A pair of leggings can contribute to that, or a towel can contribute to that in a gym setting. That's so humbling. That's a great thing.
Definitely. And well, you've had a lot of famous people, can I say, that have purchased your yoga mat. Do you want to tell us who some of these people are? I know Simone Warren has constantly had your yoga mats in her online videos on Insta. Yeah,
she's beautiful. She was one of the first people that leaned into using the products, and we just had this, we have never met in person, and I need to meet her in person.
Simone, you need to get in contact with Jarin.
But we had these beautiful, just these conversations to have those connection pieces. You know, social media and advertising and media in general can be very fickle, but for me, those genuine conversation pieces are important. But yeah, so there was Simone. Celeste Barber has had some of our pieces too. Shout out to Celeste. I'm such a big fan of her.
I love her
too. We reenact at home all of the videos. My kids get so shamed. And Ruby Rose, my gosh, big fan of hers too. And it's amazing and it's beautiful and it's wonderful to have celebrities and people with these massive profiles. But what's also important to me is that community and my family and you know, that everyone feels equally proud to use the products and wear the products. And so I love that, but I also feel, you know, when I was at a cafe the other day and I was sitting there and this lady next to us, a random cafe that I never go to, and someone pulled out one of our cases, and, you know, that's a beautiful thing.
It is, most definitely. So you said you started to kind of venture into some other stuff, and I want to now talk about Trading Blak, because you're a co-founder of Trading Blak, which has been a huge couple of years. You've been, you know, very outspoken in relation to supporting 100% Indigenous-owned businesses and really calling out people that are using Aboriginal art in a profitable way, commercialising Aboriginal art without really supporting the artists in a proper way. So you want to talk to us a little bit about Trading Blak, who it is, what it's all about?
Yeah, sure. So through my Jarin Street journey, I experienced some exploitative behaviours from what appeared to be Aboriginal-owned businesses. You know, they used advertising and marketing, their appearance online, so definitely logos, the use of art, the centering of Aboriginal models and people in their visuals, gives the impression to the public, and certainly gave the impression to me, that these were Aboriginal-owned businesses. And it wasn't until I started digging a little bit that I was like, and also I should say that in my business journey, these businesses came on recommendation as well.
Yeah, so that's pretty significant.
It really is, and it really shows how deeply embedded and ingrained the paternalism in this space is, because it's expected that is the business model. And what I mean by that is a non-Aboriginal business that markets itself as though it's Aboriginal. And the only way that you can tell if it's Aboriginal or not, or know who the owner is or what the ownership situation is, oftentimes is you have to ask them.
Yeah.
And, you know, that can spark confrontation. They get very defensive, all of these crazy responses that should be a straightforward, transparent, thing from the outset. So in my business journey, I experienced an interaction with some of these businesses that certainly exploited my business. It seemed to be this very well thought out process that I had blindly walked into.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm not going to cop that, and I'm not going to allow our community to cop that either.
Yeah.
You know, I know that people were buying these products under the impression that it was either Aboriginal owned or was having deep impact in our communities. Yeah. And in my opinion, not only were they not Aboriginal owned, but I would argue that they're not having deep impact, because deep impact means a sustainable pathway, and these pathways are not sustainable. They're dependent on the non-Aboriginal business owner.
No, you're not building anything or self-efficacy or anything like
Absolutely.
that.
If anything, in my view, it's a welfare business model, because it makes blackfellas dependent on them. Yep. In a space that's rightfully ours. So that's a big convoluted way to say that I started an Instagram page. I named it Trading Blak, and I started putting messaging out around what I was experiencing and the things that I'd been seeing. And within 6 weeks, this was early 2020, I think it was within 6 weeks, the amount of messages and contact and conversations I'd had with other mob in business. And within 6 weeks, we'd established the Trading Blak founding members group, which was a group of, at the time, it was 10 Aboriginal business owners from all over the country. We're now at 11. We'd all either witnessed it, but most of us had experienced it.
Yeah. So
it just showed that in this retail sector that this had been the norm for so long. And so we put Trading Blak together, and, you know, that was 3 years ago now. Yes, it is a movement, but we just are unapologetic in our demand for transparency.
It's fantastic. And it's led to you being able to open up the first 100% Indigenous owned store in a Westfields mall.
Yep.
Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah. And, I didn't mention earlier, you mentioned the 100% Aboriginal owned. That's what we stand to support. Yeah. So we want to see transparent businesses, or at least transparency in businesses and ownership, and Trading Blak stands to support 100% Aboriginal businesses, Aboriginal owned businesses. And so it was November 2020, and I had, in the months leading, it took a solid 6 months to get this going.
Yeah.
And I'd had the idea a long time before that, even well before, when I was still serving as a police officer. I used to walk around the shops and be like, why have we not got Aboriginal stores?
Yeah, where's the representation?
Yeah, how come blackfellas aren't running and owning these stores? Why are we not here? And so, in 2020, I marched into my local Westfields, and I was all armed with this big spiel on, we deserve representation, demanding a presence here. And they're like, when can you start? And I was like, no, I've got this whole argument ready for you. You haven't heard B, C, and D yet. But we opened up the conversation. It was a very long head and lining up businesses and whatnot. But in 2020, November 2020, we opened the first Aboriginal-owned fashion retail outlet in a Westfield shopping centre in the country. But I should also note that Westfields were the ones that worked with us. We were the first, to my knowledge, and I've done a bit of research. The first Aboriginal-owned fashion retail outlet in any shopping centre in Australia.
Wow. So not just, because we know that there have been some standalone stores, but in a shopping centre.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, and I was shocked to learn that too. Yeah. And you're proud to be the first, but don't want to be the last.
No.
Yeah.
No. I think you've just paved the way, trailblazer, for others to follow you. I bet there's been a lot of lessons learned in that piece.
So many lessons. So proud of that. We had our workforce that came through, all really, I guess, ambitious, eager, enthusiastic young people that I'm so proud to have worked with over the last few years. We just opened our second store at Barangaroo, which is, stone's throw from here. Erskine Street, Barangaroo, Trading Blak store. Come and see it. But also, we carry over 100 Aboriginal-owned brands and businesses, and that's all the way from the most sophisticated and advanced. I think that pathway is what I'm most proud of.
Yeah. you're creating a platform, but also opportunities for them to get exposure.
Yeah, and I think the public want to know where they can buy ethically as well, because I think we need to have a good conversation about what ethics look like in this space.
Yeah.
You know, yes, there's ethics around art and licensing art, and, you know, there are pathways to ensure that art is licensed. But there's nothing that speaks to how a business presents itself to the public.
Yeah.
So you can have a non-Aboriginal owned business that has ethical stamps and codes in front of it because doesn't mean that they're ethically trading as a business.
Yeah.
And, you know, Trading Blak, we have made submissions around demanding transparency around that. So that's why it is a movement. It has been a lot of hard work, so much volunteer work, and, you know, I have to give big props to all the Trading Blak founding members. And today who am I wearing? Gillawarra Art, so Kristal, who's part of Trading Blak founding members, and I've got a necklace on here, yes. Jess at Nungla, so my warrior necklace. But yeah, big props to the crew that have been part of this movement and everyone who's supported it.
Yeah. What's the legacy piece, or what's next for you? Because you've already kicked so many goals and really have started to pave the way for a lot of other Indigenous designers, artists and businesses to follow you. What
Thank
next?
you. Oh, that's a massive compliment. Thank you. It's a good question, and it comes at a good time because we're at the start of the year.
Yeah.
And it's, to be honest, I think I've been stuck in the grind and in the advocacy and the business stuff that it's a good question to ask at a good time because you've caught me off guard. But I think the legacy piece for me, in a broader sense, is, you know, I take of my elders and my family and what I've been taught through those processes very seriously. And I just hope that I can uphold their important work and their legacy all the way back to my little nan, who was part of the 1938 Day of Mourning photo, and all my aunties and uncles and my grandmother Millie Ingram and all the Redfern community. And, you know, I take all of that very seriously. So if anything I can do upholds those legacies, that's probably the first thing. But I think the second part of that is knowing that my kids have something to walk into.
Yeah.
And so that succession planning, and it's not just my kids, it's all of our kids.
Yes.
So those self-determined pathways, that's my legacy piece. Because, you know, white fellas get that.
Yeah.
You know, why have we got succession planning in broader society? We deserve that.
Yeah.
And we, you know, there's never been a lack of work.
Yeah.
There's never been a lack of contribution from our communities. Our kids deserve that. So that's probably my legacy piece.
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Well, lots of people, you know, are born into wealth, or they're born into opportunity and privilege. And you're saying, oh, actually, I want to have something for my kids to walk into, but all kids. And
all of our kids.
I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, and, you know, like all those hard yards too, and our children deserve this.
Yeah.
But I think we're different, where Aboriginal communities act differently and operate differently, is that we're always a collective. Yeah. So if my kids win, your kids win. If your kids win, my kids win, you know, and I don't see that, you know, that might happen in other communities, but, you know, in broader society, we just see that very, like, insular mentality. So for me, I honestly think that all blackfellas have that legacy piece.
Yeah.
You know, we all work to that. Yeah, but in terms of Jarin Street next steps, new collection this year. It's had a few so which has been a little demoralising, but it's, you know, we're going to get there. It'll get there. And yeah, just continuing to, I guess, enhance and move with the advocacy piece for Trading Blak, because ultimately we're not seeing. Certainly we're making inroads, and certainly people are becoming more aware of how to buy black, #BuyBlak. That's the key part of that. But yeah, I think we've got a long way to go before we see proper self-determined pathways in this sector. It's a massive, massive lucrative industry, and we're disrupting it unapologetically.
I know you just said #BuyBlak, but if there was one message you could leave my audience with today, here's your moment.
Yep, my message would be definitely #BuyBlak. But if you're wondering what is a really easy way and you're a bit unsure about how to support Aboriginal communities, a really easy way is just to buy from Aboriginal businesses. One way you can do that is to look up the About Us section if you're searching for businesses online and just see if they're Aboriginal owned or not, or come to Trading Blak because we carry only 100% Aboriginal owned businesses.
Thanks so much for being on my show, sis.
Thanks
I love
for having
it.
me.
So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed the latest episode of Meet the Mob, and make sure you connect with Jarin and share her story with your networks. Until next time.